I'm Alex Marlow, editor-in-chief of Breitbart News, and I am with one of the most important people in our culture war in the United States right now, and that is Marissa Streit. She's the CEO of PragerU. One of the coolest people in the country, I might say, as well. Marissa, there is so much to get to with you today, but I want to start with a big event that's happening on the 31st, Arizona State Capitol lawn. What's happening? Tell us about this.
So we're making our great announcement in Arizona that now PragerU is going to be serving families in Arizona. We are showing up. We have a partnership with the Superintendent of Education, Horn, as well as a bunch of other people who have called us into Arizona to help clean up the mess and support with our educational efforts.
So why Arizona? This is the latest state that now has the ability to have PragerU content in their classroom.
So the truth is that parents are waking up everywhere across the United States. In Arizona in particular, it has been a battleground because people have really become very aware and very upset about what has happened educationally over there. You may have noticed that they have been big proponents of choice. They have been horrified by the curriculum and the efforts that the teachers' unions have, suffocated kids with their left-wing agenda. Parents have gotten very involved. They have elected officials that are asking for clean, wholesome educational materials, and we have been called to go and serve. And so we're making as much content as we can, educational content, to serve the community there and to give them the option to choose a better education for their children.
Anyone who's familiar with the materials knows that this is high quality stuff. This is put together by incredibly smart people who care deeply about children. Yet, you get this incredible amount of resistance when you only want to give teachers the option. It's not forcing anyone. You want to give them the option of having this available to them. Why is that?
Yes, we believe in choice, right? Not only do we believe in choice, we believe that parents deserve to know what is happening in a kid's classroom. We are so against the gaslighting that parents have been experiencing. So every piece of content we make at PragerU is not only available for the teachers who we're partnering with, but is also available for the parents to see at home. Imagine that you can see what your child is learning in a classroom also at home. And that is what is upsetting the education institutions that have basically held our kids hostage for all these years. Financial literacy, what's wrong with teaching financial literacy? This week we're releasing a new show called The Hustle about entrepreneurship, teaching kids how to become young entrepreneurs and not always work for those big behemoth organizations. Yet the left is so upset about that. They call me a white Christian nationalist Barbie. They call Dennis an anti-Semite. They have thrown every ad hominem attack at us. Yeah. Why is it? Probably because we're over the target. And then you see that places like Arizona and many other states around the country are calling us and saying, can you please partner with our communities? We need your wholesome content. We need to clean out the garbage. We need to pull out all these books that are really destroying our young kids' minds and bring wholesome, patriotic, common sense content back into our classrooms.
Let's touch on that. So you said something there. You want to clean out some of the books.
Yeah.
Expand on that.
Well, I will say this, Alex. I believe in book banning.
Wow.
I actually believe in book banning because there are books that are going into kids' classrooms that are full-on pornographic. We run our studios in Los Angeles. These types of books, if I actually display them in my office, I'll get sued for sexual discrimination or whatever it is, right? This is pornography. Yet in a kid's library or in a third grade classroom, they find that to be appropriate. And so people say, well, PragerU believes in book banning. Which civilization does not believe that you should protect children's innocence? Only a bad one. Only a bad one. Do you not believe that a movie should be censored or rated PG or PG-13? Should we allow any theater to just screen pornography and allow 7-year-olds to go watch them? Yet in libraries and in public schools and many private schools across the country, they think that it's appropriate to show pornography in classrooms. What country teaches its own citizens to hate its own nation?
Right.
America. America does that. And so parents are sick and tired, and they're inviting us to show up and help them, and we're working as fast as we can to really push back against some of these horrible ideologies and horrible efforts that have been made by, frankly, the teachers' unions. I would say, Alex, this is a fight between PragerU and the behemoths of the teachers' unions, the big ones that really represent big politics in our country. We're talking about the AFT and the NEA, who have been very vocal about their left-wing agenda. They've been very vocal about their Marxist agenda. And finally, parents are waking up because it's hitting at home. They're seeing their own children coming home with these terrible ideas.
What does Randi Weingarten think of you?
Well, she has not hid the fact that she doesn't like us, given that she tweets about us regularly. But frankly, I think she is threatened by us. And she's right to be threatened by us because we are making an impact that she has never seen before. I don't think that there is an organization in America that has had this kind of impact on our kids, this kind of ability to push back against what the unions have done to our kids, the way they have robbed them of a true education. And so Randi is not a fan. But Randi, in my opinion, is also not a fan of the United States of America. If you look at her behavior and what she has done to America's education system, if she doesn't like PragerU, it's because she doesn't like America.
If you think about where the teachers' unions have positioned themselves, they're on the side of anti-American content, they're on the side of pornographic content, and they're against the option of things like Otto's Tales Flag Day in the classroom. Do they understand that that seems absurd to anyone who's a sentient being?
Well, you know, the truth is not insecure, right? I say that our content should be absolutely optional. Let me produce the best content possible. So the states will call me and say, hey, we really love what you're doing. We'd like to syndicate it. We'd like to endorse it, right? We're not looking for any sort of heavy-handed governmental system where people are forcing people to use PragerU. We are saying, let's make it as an option, where the teachers' unions, they don't want to have any options, right? These tolerant people, they don't want options. They want a heavy-handed, discriminatory policy that doesn't allow any sort of competition. I'm all about competition. Bring on the competition. I will make the best product that I can make and let another person compete with me. And if Americans ultimately choose PragerU, that is because we won on our own merit by making the best product possible, not because we've discriminated or pushed out or basically said that there is an educational institution that is not allowed to make products. The only thing I discriminate against is the heavy-handed pornographic material that is going into classrooms, and that I think every parent would agree with me on.
So what you're creating are history lessons, civics lessons, financial literacy lessons, something I've always complained about, that why does that not come up at all in school ever? Oh yeah, so that we can overpay for college eventually, yes. That's why. But if you look at this on the whole, what are you presenting to the school systems that is different than what's there now? What is it that they're so threatened by is really the question.
Wholesome. Self-reliance, that's a big deal. We talk about financial literacy. We teach self-reliance, real critical thinking. You know, they throw around this word critical thinking as if it's something that teachers are actually teaching these days, but they're not teaching critical thinking. They're actually teaching one way of thinking. They say that we believe in indoctrination, yet the left has been indoctrinating young Americans for years. I mean, I used to be an educator myself. I was taught how to indoctrinate with left-wing ideas. And so what we want to teach is this concept of self-reliance, this ability to think on your own and to actually solve on your own. This is why we do teach financial literacy, so that people can make their own decisions. It's why we do teach entrepreneurship, so that people can actually build their own businesses. It's why we teach that the American values, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, is such a core, fundamental part of the American DNA. But when you're having schools across America not teaching these things, then you're raising an entire generation that doesn't understand what America is about. We're a nation with amnesia. We don't understand ourselves. Yet people around the world want to come and move here to the United States of America, and we're teaching our own kids that they shouldn't love America, that they should believe in some Marxist political leftist ideology that is actually ruining America. And so why does the AFD and the NEA or the teachers unions or the left in general, why are they so upset with PragerU? Is because we want to give this option of hearing the truth, a truth that we believe is not insecure. Once they hear the truth, they know that it's going to impact these young minds, and these young minds are no longer going to be indoctrinated with their ideas. And that is ultimately going to be their loss and our win.
It seems clear that our school systems, particularly our public school systems, are churning out mediocrity. That's what it is right now. And it's sort of an epidemic in this country right now. And tolerating mediocrity at best, maybe it's worse than that. Does PragerU offer an alternative to that?
Well, I'll tell you an interesting story. Imagine I went to my board of directors and I said to them, you know what? I can't meet the standards of what you set for me, but it's very important that I meet standards. And so therefore, I would like you to lower my standards every single year, right? What business does that? I'll tell you what business does that. The business of America's education system. Every other year, they lower the standards in order to meet the standards. It's absurd. It's absurd. Instead of us increasing the standards every year, look at the McGuffey readers from the 1870s. The standard of reading, the standard of math that was expected of a fourth or fifth grader is so much higher than the standard of reading of America's kids today. Yet we spend so much more money, we have so much more technology. Why are the standards so much lower? Because you have an entire system that has been held hostage to this political elite that has not allowed us to actually set standards that are appropriate for young Americans.
And the chief among them is the teachers' unions, which has been one of your top adversaries.
Exactly.
Okay, so the goal is to get approval state by state. Every state's different. How many states are you in now? What's on your target list? And then I want to go to Arizona specifically on why you're making so much progress there.
So the states that we're working with right now, we started with Florida, we have Oklahoma, New Hampshire, Montana, somewhat in Texas. Or Arizona is a big deal. First of all, it's neighboring to California.
Sure.
Secondly, it's a big deal because they have been on the forefront of fighting for choice. The parents are super awake over there. I mean, we figured out this announcement less than a month ago. We have hundreds of people showing up at the state capitol this coming week. We have an amazing group of supporters. I think it's going to really start changing the national conversation about what the expectations are for states and how they really need to level the playing field and allow non-left-wing Marxist content creators to serve America. So it's a really big deal. The next states, you know, I hate to say this, but I have to be very discreet about it because the effort that is coming from the political systems, these monsters, I mean, I can't come up with a better word, monsters that have been holding our school system hostage, have been threatening everybody involved. I mean, the fact that we have to be afraid, I'm not afraid, but people are legitimately afraid to actually take a stand and fight back, right? It's because they're violent monsters, they are threatening, and so all the states that we're working with that we haven't made an announcement with yet is mostly because we need to be very careful that the political elite will come after them and attack them.
It just says so much about the culture right now and why we have such mediocre. Anything that threatens the education system, people just want to put a roadblock in front of it.
Exactly.
So what does this mean for teachers, particularly in Arizona?
So first of all, I think it's encouragement. I think teachers need to know that the superintendent and the state leaders have their back. When the teachers' unions, you know, threaten them or when their boss threatened them, you know, frankly, I remember myself being a teacher in my 20s. Like if the teachers' union said no on something, I was afraid to do anything otherwise, right? They're very, very threatening. And so by having Superintendent Horn actually step in and say, this is okay, this is endorsed, this is blessed, go ahead and use it. I think it's encouraging, right? It makes it a little less scary for that 20, 30-year-old teacher or even the 40, 50, 60-year-old teacher who is threatened by these monsters, right? One thing is that we have to fight against the biggest bully in school. The biggest bully in school is the political left that has been using multiple teachers' unions as well as the Department of Education to basically scare teachers from doing the right thing and scare parents from getting involved in the right way, right? So when you have leaders like Superintendent Horn and the other superintendents around the country who have been standing with PragerU, it gives courage to these teachers and to these parents to do the right thing.
Is your content political?
Our content is ideological. It's patriotic, it's wholesome, it's pro-America. I hate I hate the fact that the left has become so politicized that it hates America, right? And so I guess if you're not with the left, you're against the left.
Yeah.
And if you're against the left, then you're political, right? I'm not about politicians. I'm not about parties. I'm about values, ideology, goodness, wholesomeness, common sense, self-reliance. All of these things don't align with the left right now.
Right.
But that's not my fault. I didn't choose to be political. I
Yes.
just believe in goodness.
Yes. It doesn't feel political, but now to say you love America is all of a sudden feels like a political statement.
I mean, it's a political statement that this is what the American flag looks like.
Yeah.
Red, white, and blue, and not a bunch of rainbows and stars and like God knows what they're going to add, right?
Right.
That is suddenly a political statement. But they have politicized every aspect of our lives, from sports to education to our very own flag.
So what is your hope for teachers and students now who have access to this material? It's sanctioned, it's good to go. How do they start incorporating it into their lesson plans?
Go to PragerU.com. Everything is 100% free. Use whatever you want. Make the right choices for you and for your community. Involve the parents. Involve the students. Raising a child and educating a child is a wholesome act, right? It's not done by the teacher. It's not done by the parent. It's a combination if you choose to send your kids to school. If you're in a perfect situation, I would recommend homeschooling, but many parents can't do that. And so if you're sending your child to a school, you have to demand that the teachers involve you in whatever way possible. Do not be gaslit. And if you're an educator, it is your job to encourage parents to be involved, because that is ultimately the best thing for a child, when a parent is actually involved. And so we are here to serve with that kind of material where you can do that, where you can teach. America is not a perfect place. It was never a perfect place. We're getting better and better, and we certainly have our hiccups. But it's the greatest country on God's green earth, and it is our country to protect. And those are the things that I want teachers to feel comfortable telling their kids. And so my hope is that when people go onto PragerU.com, they will find the material that's right for their constituency, for their kids, and that they work hand in hand with the parents to make the right decisions for their children.
How do people support you, first of all, this week in Arizona, and then longer term?
We welcome everybody to show up. We'd love people to come to the state capitol. We'll be there on Wednesday at 11:30. We're making our big announcement. You can also go online and share our content. Just go ahead, download the content, share it with your friends, encourage other people to do it. Take our content, walk into your school's library and say, hey, this is endorsed here right now in my state. I want to see it in the kids' libraries. And work with the teachers to encourage them to just take a look at some of our content. A lot of it is not political, has nothing to do with politics. There is no reason why financial literacy or entrepreneurship can't be taught in American schools. We make the best, most cutting-edge edutainment
Right.
a teacher can find.
Yes.
So go ahead and use it. It's free. You don't have to use all of it. And don't take the stuff that you don't agree with if you don't want to. But I guarantee you'll find some good stuff.
The media hates you. It's always a good sign in my book, but it does create
I
problems.
hate you too.
Yeah, very much, very much. They're not big fans, but it's always a sign that you're on the right track, but also creates headaches. They really have you in their gun sights right now, figuratively speaking. We hope, maybe literally. I hope not. So how do you defend against that? How do you convince people who get their news from places like NBC that this is legit, this is serious stuff about how America is a great place and these are things that will help your students, and not some sort of radical right-wing stuff?
I actually think that America is waking up. I really do. I think
too.
that what has happened with all that DEI stuff at Harvard and many other universities, our audience has grown since then. Every time the left goes crazier and crazier, which they do, we garner a larger audience. I think people are starting to wake up. They're also looking at their kids and they're saying, enough with this. I don't want my child to look at another child through the color of their skin. I don't want my child to be attacked or demoralized because they've been successful. I believe in merit, right? You're hearing parents saying these things. And so when NBC does a hit piece on us, claiming that we're like the boogeyman, people actually go to PragerU.com and say, like, who is this boogeyman? And then they kind of fall in love with us,
Yes.
which is kind of, what happens when you do good, wholesome work.
And that's why they're afraid, because you change hearts and minds. And that's why we at Breitbart are happy to be in the trenches with you. Congrats on the success lately, and hopefully a great event in a couple days.
Thank you.